Integrative Inquiry, Week 12, Integration of Strengths and Opportunities to Improve.
Grounded. The invitation here is to notice the feet on the floor, feet, maybe even moving the left foot and the right foot, just really anchoring into the floor. Seat in the chair. Back upright, alert, yet relaxed. Softening the eyes. Bringing a gentle attention to the breath. You are here. You intended to be here. You have arrived. And I am grateful. Whenever you're ready, inviting your attention to the PowerPoint. Grounding. And then talking about expectations. Noticing what you're noticing, remembering the chair is there, the breath is still there. Self-compassion is here. Center for Creative Leadership has an office in San Diego. They do some amazing, amazing work, training, research, the whole 9 yards. Some of their work in 2011 talked about the leaders' required leadership traits. These are also similar traits that we're being asked to demonstrate in students who graduate from our universities, our colleges and universities, or transfer on to graduate school or four-year degrees or whatever the case might be. And what they're saying is these leaders need to be creative. They need to be able to navigate complexity and ambiguity. They need to be agile, adaptable. They need to span boundaries, right? Going across divisional divides or department divides. They need to think network or systems thinking, self-aware, and co-creators. And again, in this class, we're not going through all of these sorts of practices, but we're setting the foundation with the mindfulness practices and the compassion practices. Again, the theory U, Otto Scharmer's theory U, we're moving down the theory U to presencing to what is in this class. But as you look at these traits, how much of that feels to be what is being asked of you? Yeah, anybody? Okay, and more, right? Okay, I hear that. I hear that through even though I'm here recording this. Yes, and more. So it was just very complex and ambiguous environments, a lot of chaos, a lot of crises. And so this is why we're setting the foundation with mindfulness and compassion and being self-aware to really request needs where needs need to be requested, and the co-creators. And that's moving upside the theory U. So one of the invitations that I'd like to put before you, it's completely optional, is if you haven't taken a personality inventory, you may be interested in taking one. The one that we utilize in our doctoral program is StrengthsFinder, and sometimes we utilize it, sometimes we don't, depending on whether the program covers the cost or not. So in any event, this is an opportunity to discover your strengths. Now, once you complete this inventory and you get your strengths back, you may not feel like those are your strengths. They may be qualities that you may not be so proud of, or that just might be me. When I did my strength finders, I got these qualities back, and it's like, yes, I know this is my go-to method under stress, right? If you need it done, give it to me, I'll get it done, right? That is one of my strengths. And so when I got my strengths back, I was like, this is blah, I don't like this. But it had to do more with, well, they are my strengths. I mean, these are areas that I can give a small cognitive load. So what I have been working on the last 25 years is working on areas that are not my strengths. So to balance out my skill portfolio, if you will. And what helped me do that is the Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram. So taking those two personality inventories. So again, this is just an invitation. You don't have to do this. Maybe you've already taken one of these or more of these. Maybe you know your strengths. But the idea here is when push comes to shove and we're really stressed and we're under the deadline, these are sort of the attributes that are really going to come out. What's helpful about cultivating the self-awareness for that is if there's strengths that may be useful to the team, that's great. But if you'd like to counter those strengths with other skills, then this mindfulness compassion cultivation will move into some more discovery of blind spots in the remaining 2 weeks that we're together. But the idea here is that it can elevate your self-awareness. Now, if you want to use this with your teams, what I would invite you to do is be very clear that you're not going to use this for personnel evaluations. You may laugh, but that has been an experience in my past, so I really want to make it clear. I thought, it was a new assistant dean, and I thought, oh my goodness, I was a young assistant dean, a new assistant dean, and I thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to invite the whole team to take, I think it was Myers-Briggs at the time, and I was in a new job, and I wasn't paying attention to, there was a ton of distrust at the university. I was there because the person before me wasn't successful and several people before me weren't successful, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the whole point was that while I thought it was a fast way to find everybody's strengths and get the team organized to their strengths and play to their strengths, it freaked out people. So the invitation here is just to be mindful if you invite this into your workplace and how you invite it in, and really set it up beautifully. So at that time, I didn't know about mindfulness. I had no idea what it was. So the invitation again here is to just, and this whole point of discovering strengths and opportunities for growth, mindfulness, the awareness of what's rising in the moment from paying attention in a particular way from moment to moment while suspending judgment, and looking with playful curiosity and gentle kindness, lots of awareness can happen. Self-awareness, organizational awareness, awareness of other strengths. And this is what we want to leverage as a leader with great compassion. So at this point in the course, even though we've asked this before, it's come up in online dialogues and all this sort of thing, I want to invite you to think about what keeps you from being the leader you know you can be. What keeps you from being the leader you know you can be? How aware are you of that? It may be internal resourcing, sleep, nutrition, investing in self-care, right? That may be keeping you from being the leader you know you can be. There may be some skill sets that you need to investigate, explore, some professional development opportunities. I've had plenty of opportunities over my career thus far, and still to have others point out areas of growth opportunity for me and provide me with a menu of professional development options in order to cultivate those skill sets. There's nothing wrong with that. No one is everything to everyone. No one can be. But what keeps you from being the leader you know you can be? So are there things externally that we can cultivate? Are there things internally that we can cultivate? Internal resources. We'll talk about these internal resources as we move forward. One of the practices that I've found really helpful, in case you don't know what kind of leader you want to be, In case you're at this point in your career and this point in the course and you're still wondering, I'm not sure what kind of leader I want to be. There's nothing wrong with that. There are lots of practices that we can engage in. They're not a part of this course, but I'll put them in the resources section on the Blackboard. If you can't find them, let me know. But one of the practices is a practice that we've practiced. It's called intention setting. It's the practice of bringing yourself to stillness and asking yourself, who am I? What do I want? What is my life's purpose? For what am I grateful? Right? Who am I? What do I want? What is my life's purpose? For what am I grateful? This is a practice from the Chopra Center for Wellbeing. And it's a practice that can really heighten the inner wisdom and awareness of the being that I'd like to become, leveraging the being that I'm already created to be. Yeah. So that can be useful. And we'll also do some visioning in a later week as well from the Life Mastery Institute process. So one of the pieces here that I'd like to speak to is in becoming the leader that you'd like to be. It's a mindfulness compassion practice. It's a mindful compassion practice. That's why this course often gets labeled Mindful Compassion Leadership. And in that is a noticing of the inhabituation that happens. And what this means is this is all of the inner critic talking, right? This is the don't do that. It's not going to be, people aren't going to like it. People aren't going to accept you for all of who you are. Keep that hidden. And that's completely your choice. Again, Brene Brown on her website has a lot of resources about when to be vulnerable, with whom to be vulnerable, who you want to avoid being vulnerable with, how to cultivate that knowing sense. But there's also many times I've taken myself out because I just haven't trusted the people around me to be okay with being with this, right? Haven't trusted the people around me to be okay with being this, because I had a lot of coaching saying, tone it down or whatever. Don't be so nice. Don't be so naive, whatever it might have been, right? And I started to listen to that rather than listen to this. So in the mindful compassion practice, what we're doing is we're tuning up this. We're tuning up embodiment of what is true and what is real. Isn't that yummy? And we're embracing that unknown. We're embracing, hey, I'm not so sure how this is going to go, but I'm practicing focused awareness, open awareness. Yep. And I'm going to move with breath and compassion into the action. And trust emergence. This is trust emergence. This is trusting the emergence of inner wisdom and collective wisdom. And this can only happen when we're really being in it with our whole authentic selves. That doesn't mean we're not honoring survival skills, right? All of that stuff, it means all of that is in it. Cool? So what does it look like? Well, in our in-class, we'll practice. We'll practice some practices that I love these practices. They're from Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute. They're integration practices. They're basically taking your opposites, like confidence and humility, and those aren't totally opposite, but like attainment and non-attainment, opposite, depth and lightness, rigor and spontaneity, spark and stillness. So take sort of all of these words that people have used to describe you, that you've used to describe yourself, and we're going to practice going to the extremes of both of them. And then we'll come back to the juices in the middle. So this doesn't mean that my coaches who have told me to like tone it down haven't been right, but for me to tone it down to the extreme where I'm walking around like this and afraid to say anything or do anything, that isn't serving anyone, certainly the being within. So there is a lot of research that suggests this integration. Focusing on the and is a good idea. This is just one citation from Jim Collins. It's clear back in 2001, but it's a good one where they did some research about what makes a level 5 leader. And basically it was great ambition and personal humility. And one wouldn't think these would go together. Great ambition and personal humility. It's like, I like to also think about it as great vision and a great know-how to get it done, but a lot of humility to know I can't do this on my own. It's not going to happen. Yes. Meng also uses a wonderful analogy about having humility that's as grand as Mount Fuji and as small as a piece of sand. I just love this. So Mount Fuji, just so beautiful and powerful and such an iconic sort of vision, and then a piece of sand that you wouldn't notice at all unless you really got in there and sorted it through and really did some work to find it, right? So that kind of humility, really powerful humility. So in this integration process, in the focusing of our strengths, our opportunities for growth, how we'd like to leverage all of that and move into heightened self-awareness, there is a significant interdependence that's also happening. And interdependence is not a real popular word, but basically, if you look it up in Wikipedia, which I know the cautions of citing, I still like this definition. It means interdependence is a relationship in which each member is mutually dependent on the others. The concept differs from a dependence relationship where some members are dependent and others are not. And the synonyms are globalization, interconnectivity, and interconnectedness. Isn't that beautiful? So what we're doing as a leader is not saying, if I leave, it all goes to blah, right? It's saying I could leave, and yes, there'd be a hole, and we all are working together, right? It's an interconnected, it's an interdependence. And so this requires trust, vulnerability, humility, ambition. It requires all of this. And it's a focus on the and, really focusing on the and. And so I am very aware, I don't have to tell any of you this, you're very conscious of the transformation from I to we, and it's the most important process leaders go through, and we know that we have plenty of examples of leaders who don't go through this process, and they might achieve great accomplishments for a short while and then really fail, right? So it's not sustainable. I to we becomes sustainable. I to we is sustainable. And if so in this I to we, there'd be some things that we want to look at. We want to pay attention to evidence, yes, to evidence-based decision-making. We want to pay attention to how we're accountable at all levels. We want to pay attention to the commitment that people are able to make. We want to notice whether fear of conflict is keeping people to engage. And we want to notice this piece called trust. Brene Brown uses an analogy in her Dare to Lead book about trust is built like little marbles in a jar. It's not like when you're saving a colleague's life, but it's just, building up trust can be checking in on them to see how are they doing, remembering a birthday, remembering a name, remembering where they went on their holiday, remembering when they need to take their break. Like, stuff like that can start to build trust. Yeah. And then there's ethics. This is a YouTube video I'll just invite you to watch on your own around ethics and the challenge of ethics. And I'm often having conversations, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's the right thing to do for humanity. And so we see leaders make decisions based on whether it's legal or not legal. Okay, not a bad thing to do. But just because it's legal doesn't make it right. Doesn't mean it's humane. Things to think about. And all of this, what we're doing is we're moving into this conscious choice-making model. So we're starting with who am I? Who are you as a leader? Who are you in relationship to this, whatever this is, this experience in this moment? How do you feel about it? What's your role in how you feel? What are your options within your locus of control that you have to feel better in this moment? Feel better meaning more empowered to make a choice. What choices are available to you in this moment? And what's the most loving choice for you and also brings good to others? So this is important because some people will choose a choice they feel is most loving for them and it can cause harm to others, okay? Some people will choose a choice that causes harm to them that they think others will bring good to them. So your life is not less important than the people's lives you serve. Your life is not less important than the people's lives you serve. Your life is not more important than the lives of the peoples you serve. It's equally important, right? And that will look, so those choices will look different and moment to moment based on resources, internal resources. So whatever you can notice bringing good to you, bringing good to others, and are you able to accept the consequences of that choice? And it allows us to own our choice as leaders. All right. Science, you can't be everything to everyone. Nobody can. Doing all by yourself is not sustainable. You can accomplish great things. You can be applauded, whatever, but it's not sustainable. So, and you get to choose. All right. Our practices of grounding, speaking to what is, noticing noticing the continuum. We'll have so much fun with this. Just we'll practice this in class. It'll be fun. I'll have fun. I hope you have fun. Focus breathing, SBNRR, compassion practices, and remember to ask for help. Make requests of your needs. Let them be known. Your life is just as important as everyone else's. Questions, comments, post them to the board. The invitation, connect with your buddy. Questions on the course website, post them, please. Practice focused breathing daily, SBNRR daily. That's the stop, breathe, notice, reflect, respond. Look for the and in things. When you notice going to the extreme, when you notice relying on a strength, think about what's the opposite. What does that look like? How could that create some interdependence? Practice compassion, always, self and other. The 2-minute journal is there, and reflect on the weekly poem. All right. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing